Hi everyone, I'm Jahnavi. I hope you all are well. I'm making this video on what are the things you can consider if you're planning to take a loan and go abroad to study. And I've been thinking about this for a while. I think a while ago when I was in India, I was invited at Lady Shri Ram College for this online discussion. And we were talking about geriatric care, and I was talking from the mental health perspective. But it was great to have a lot of other people. There were doctors, and then there were heads of a lot of NGOs or organizations. And one of the persons was a head of a home for the older people. And this was a home where, I mean, it was not like old people left alone and things like that. It was people who've gone by choice, and they're paying for a good life, for a better life, where they get some good services, get a sense of community. And I think some of the insights that she had to offer were just fantastic, and I have been thinking about that now for a while too. And then I'm also seeing how that plays in real life when I meet with people, have friends, um, and have known or have interacted with more people. So the first most important thing is what she said was that a lot of times when parents end up taking loans, they are relatively young in their lives. So they may be, because their kids are young, maybe they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they're not really senior citizens or very old people yet. So there is a different outlook to life where they're hopeful, oh yeah, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to be able to take this loan and I'm going to be able to do this and things like that. So that age is different when they take the loan. And eventually, when it is now time to actually repay it back, they end up becoming a little older, and then there could be a lot of sense of hopelessness or lots of sense of worries and things like loneliness that might come in, which a lot of parents discuss in their homes. Because I believe that this person's home that this person ran used to be for it had many parents who were having kids who studied abroad and who settled abroad. So these are parents who end up then going and moving in these homes. And it's, they get a sense of community and a good facility, care, food. They don't have to worry about a lot of those things. So that's when they're having these kinds of discussions, like we were young, but now it's like there's loneliness. People who have our kids who've gone abroad can't come back. um, there are burdens of loan, pressures of loan, which causes significant amount of stresses and things like that. So that's why I'm going to talk about what are the things before you apply to a university or before you take the decision of taking this loan. What are the things you can consider? First, most important thing I can say is that, because I've also experienced it, is that we don't have that culture of asking too many questions, or there is a more power distance where, for example, if a professor says something, we don't keep constantly questioning, or we don't ask a lot of questions. It's just a culturally it's a cultural norm. It's being sometimes disrespectful if you ask too many questions, or it's like you're disturbing someone, because we may not have like staff dedicated to answering questions and things like that. So we are not used to asking a lot of questions as Indian people, and that's not how it is in America. They welcome questions. They're happy to answer. There are people dedicated in a university who are there to answer your emails. There is like admissions coordinator who you can ask about things like, hey, can you connect me with another Indian student in the program? I mean, I have never done that. I've seen so many other people, like Indian students, like who, for example, even when they applied for a PhD in my university, um, I saw a lot of other students would just reach out, but Indian students would, feel like, okay, I'm done with interview day and now I can't ask these questions. Sometimes it also feels like, you're trying to impress someone, or these are cultural norms. So it's not always perceived positively if you ask a lot of questions or try to make connections outside of your interview. Like that's not something I had ever visualized that I could actually connect with. And there was almost a sense of guilt, because we had students who would connect with us and reach out to us. I had a senior student who reached out to me, and I felt like, oh my god, am I doing something wrong by connecting with the student and asking questions about this university, and making a decision based on that and things like that. So that is a very normal thing here. So please feel free to ask lots and lots and lots of questions to the university you're applying to. Maybe, for example, if it's through an agency, I know some agencies which actually help you connect with people from universities abroad. You can get in touch with them online. They can answer any questions you might have. I would say that even if you have like a huge list of questions, keep them ready and you can ask them questions like, okay, how many people actually get jobs after graduating from your program? What is the salary structure like? How is the diversity? How is the do you how are the international students treated? You can ask n number of questions, I think, but the most important question would be ask about, okay, i'm an Indian student, I'm taking this huge loan. I need to know what is the job prospect, what is the success ratio afterwards. And feel free to ask these questions, because if you're paying such a huge amount, you deserve to know those answers. Because I've seen so many students. I have known someone who was a neighbor also, um, at my relative's place. So they were like, oh my god, I didn't even know what I was signing up for. So making sure that you know what you're signing up for, um, instead of having to come back forcefully afterwards, because agencies were like, if you get a job you can stay back. Yeah, but then there is this word if, which means there's no guarantee. Or sometimes they might even say, oh, you will get a job and then you can stay back. But do people actually get a job? Ask those questions a lot. The other thing to consider is, what stream and course you are. Unfortunately, even today, um, for example, if you're doing something very specific, art type, that might have a lesser job guarantee as compared to something like becoming a doctor or engineer, because they are these jobs which have openings. And because I have known someone who came to study a specific art course and is having a very hard time finding a job. If you don't ask, whichever country you're going to, if you ask them, if I don't have a job, how much time do I have to stay back in the country to work? And they're like, I don't know about this is legal thing. No, there might be someone who can answer that, within the university. If not, if they're like, no, 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 these are not answers questions we can answer, try to find that out. Even if you have to take a lawyer's appointment, that's worth 500 rupees, 1000, 1500, whatever the fees are. That's worth it, rather than just going, okay, okay, we'll see. No, the we will see is problematic. You need to think ahead, especially when it comes to money. And especially because you're an international student, it's so unfortunate. Just because you're born in a certain country, you're not born with the same privileges and rights. And sometimes it's almost inhuman, because you spend so much money, and if you have to go back, it's so hard to be able to earn all of that money back, because jobs in India, even if it's a super high paying job, will not be even equal to a stipend sometimes abroad, right? So will you be able to pay back those thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you've spent? So making, or dollars or pounds or euros that you're spending. Yeah. So I think making sure that you ask some of those questions. I think other things to consider is, again, your parents will be older. If you're working abroad, sometimes, for example, H1B visa, if you have an H1B visa, you need to get some stamping done. And now, because of COVID, people are not getting dates in the embassy. Your parents might be older when you're actually on a work permit. Will you be able to go back home? uh, will they have the ability to come here? If you have spent too much money, sometimes not being able to go back home is also a consideration. So um, are you prepared for that mentally? If not, but if you definitely want to go abroad, I would think like seeking help, going to counseling, going to therapy, thinking through these, starting to process this early on rather than having this as a shock would be very helpful. Another thing is making sure what are your degree requirements. If they say it's a 2-year degree, you think it can get done? What are the chances of, for example, what if I'm not able to do it in 2 years? How many people actually do it in 2 years? What is the average? Ask people, because sometimes people go for a 2 years degree and end up having to study for 3 years, which is a lot of additional money. Sometimes it's as much as $50,000, which you're spending more. So it's a huge amount of money. I don't know how it is in other countries, but I've heard of these things. So making sure that you ask these questions, you're entitled to know before you're able to spend this amount of money. Another thing is, yeah, now if you're taking a loan, you have to be mentally prepared that, okay, this is what my lifestyle is going to be. Maybe you come from a rather middle class or upper middle class family in India, but obviously when I'm spending in dollars, sometimes it's also shock for some students, because it's like, I was living comfortably in India, and now I have to like worry about making ends meet. Like, I'm counting every penny that I have. So being mentally prepared about that, what is the amount that you're spending? what are your job prospects, and will you be able to repay that amount back. Although there are also situations where, for example, some person comes from masters and doesn't get a job immediately after that. I've also seen them apply for PhD programs, also get in very successfully, and that gives you more time and more education and more competence and things like that. But in case, but I've also seen people who have come here, spent a lot of money on their loans, and have been able to make a very good life for themselves eventually. Like they get into excellent jobs, or they start and then eventually start their business and things like that. So they're not only being able to repay that back, but also make so much more and change their entire family's lifestyle and well-being and things like that. So lots of things. It's not to say that loans can only be painful, but a lot of times people end up realizing the cost that is coming to their physical and mental health, because it can get very stressful, especially if you're coming from a middle class family in India, or lower middle class, or from not a very well to do family where you can just throw like 1 2 crore rupees and not worry about it. In that situation, it can get extremely stressful. Like um, people have start developing blood pressure, or that is what I've known from a lot of people, fall sick, mental health issues like depression, anxiety. So making sure that you're aware, because otherwise if it just comes as a big shock that, oh my god, I spent all of this money and I didn't know that I'm going to be in such huge debts, or my parents will be under so much pressure, because right now they're working enough, they're earning enough to give us an education and things like that. But right now they're 40, 50, 60. Soon they will retire. How will we be able to pay those loans back? Or how stressful will it be financially if I'm paying like 70, 80,000, 1 lakh rupees per month for EMI? And how much is my salary and earning? That if that happens for constantly for a long period of time, and if you're not being able to get a job or getting means to repay it back, that can get very stressful. So being mentally prepared about what can be done, what are the opportunities, what are the possibilities. Some countries also, now that I've heard of a friend who graduated from a different country, they were also allowing students to do basic Walmart kind of jobs, right? So if they allow that, can you do that and start working? Some people are like, oh yeah, I'm just, something will work out. No, I think so important to know that, because when you're taking the loans, your parents are in their maybe middle adulthood, and when it's actually time for them to repay, eventually they start getting older, they might retire, they might not have the same financial means, even mental, physical strength. They might be at a different age in their life. So it's just helpful to consider these things before you just jump right into taking huge loans. Even as a student, you don't want to put yourself in that much amount of pressure, and you hope to not put so much pressure on your parents. So the pressure, yeah, might still be there. Sometimes it just, you have to do it because that's where your future is. In that case, how do you want to manage it? Make conversations about it. I think talking about it, taking professional help, speaking with a psychologist, speaking about this with each other, communicating with each other, that this is getting stressful for me, mom, like I can't manage it, I can't do this. Or parents being able to communicate that this is getting very stressful for me, is there something else that can be done, is there something we can do to work on this, or to you know so I think having that communication, sometimes it, even taking, for example, speaking to a psychologist, it doesn't solve the problem, really just helps you process it and deal with it better, cope with it better. Because you don't want a situation like blood pressure or heart problems, or even something like a cardiac arrest or panic attacks, and mental health deteriorates and things like that. Because eventually, I've seen both sides. Like I've also seen people in India forming that sort of physical health issues, also abroad, where they are getting settled and everything. But that process is so stressful. It is very stressful, and I have tremendous respect for people who are taking efforts to study abroad, or even take efforts within India to make that sort of change in lifestyle, that where they're taking risks. But it can be extremely stressful. So acknowledging that, seeking help, being able to process that alongside, and don't feel guilty or worry to ask questions. Keep asking lots of questions, and you might just realize that what you were thinking is not the right place for you. But in that process of asking questions, you might discover a different place which is just appropriate for you. So I hope that this video helps. It's out of a lot of experiences of myself, and also I feel I would give a lot of credits to this person who runs this home for the elderly. And yeah, those insights after that webinar were so helpful for me to know that the implications of studying abroad, and especially on families, on parents, on older parents. Younger people are still able to manage through, and yet people are able to succeed very well. And you still might succeed despite all the stress. The only thing is that if we are able to talk about it, seek help, you'll be able to succeed without the physical health, or like minimizing the physical or mental health costs that you're paying, because the process of establishing yourself, getting that job, even getting an education, going to a completely different country in a completely different culture by yourself, can be really challenging and stressful. So yeah, I hope this helps. And again, a big shout out to university counseling centers. A lot of them, at least I mean, I know they are for you students to seek services. Since you're already enrolled in insurance, generally they're also free. Or if you're in insurance, you can also find out if your insurance covers therapy outside of the university. So would definitely encourage that, for students to do that, if you're especially studying abroad, and also parents to reach out to counselors. There are some good psychologists also now in India, so it just helps process challenges better. I hope this helps, and take care.